everyone, welcome to another episode of the Slowest Blitz, where we are playing Asphodel. It's turn 6. Expansion's been going pretty good. Let's jump things. So, alright, we've got 3 expansions this turn, and we've been kind of uncovering the map around us, trying to see who our neighbors are, etc, etc. So, let's jump in and see how things have gone. We have a battle in Trotern. This one we were not super concerned with, right? Jaguar tribe are not especially difficult. The only issue is with, I think, low protection cavalry, like the Black Centaurs, right? Is that enough ranged units in mass, even slings, can be a bit of an issue, right? Like, they don't have an especially strong helmet, their shield's all right, but it's not, like, crazy, etc, etc. But this was not a province that we were super worried about because it's just not especially big, so hopefully it will be fine. Got our Black Centaurs on the side. Ooh, that attack rear is very broken up. I hate it when that happens. Because this is when there's the risk of an issue is everyone in a group turning and focusing on one particular centaur because it's isolated, right? But doesn't seem like that happened. Maybe we lost one, but for the most part it seems okay. Oh, Bodis. Nope, all good on Black Centaurs. We even kept our singular Centaur warrior. We've lost most of our satyrs at this point, so there is that, right? But yeah, pretty clean. Not too bad. Chaff doing what Chaff needs to do. We have an attack in Namor, where we're using our Black Centaurs, and then a little cluster of Sagittarian carcasses, and a singular Mandragora as kind of like Chaff. And this is potentially dangerous, right? We do have some heavy cav here, some light cavalry. Mostly it's that heavy cav that is an issue. Also, priests, which normally aren't an issue in indies for most nations. I'd say probably 95% of nations don't care. There are a handful, though, like Asphodel and, you know, like some of the demon nations, for example, that can have bad times with a bunch of indie priests, but we're mostly concerned about our Black Centaurs surviving here. If we lose the Sagittarian carcasses, that won't be too big of a deal. So the knights are going to come in, and do not go to the Mandragora, so that's unfortunate. We're not going to eat a lance charge there. Actually, don't go for the Sagittarian carcasses either. They go straight for the Black Centaurs, which is a little scary. We're also getting archer fire at our Centaur Hierophant, which can be dangerous because he does not have a shield or a helmet or anything like that. Can get popped. Fortunately, Black Centaurs typically are going to do just fine against Indie Cav. It's very hard for Indie Cav to actually hit them. And the Centaur, or the Sagittarian carcasses, right, like being so close. It's funny. So I got behind on recording, and all of the turns for a while will have happened pre-patch. But because of the patch, the turn files are going to show updated units that aren't where they are. I think it's like mid-20s where the patch actually rolled, so I'm very far behind. But I'm trying to catch up this weekend, so let's see how this all goes. Ignore the new models. I'll tell you in the turn when they're supposed to actually arrive. So that looked like it was pretty clean in Namor. We did lose the Mandragora. Everything else was fine. I actually got some kills on the Sagittarian carcasses. That's cool. And we have a battle in the Frosted Peaks. Not super worried about this one. Wolf Tribe, or Deer Tribe, right? The one above this is Wolf Tribe. So this should be just fine. We'll lose these Carrion. Maybe we'll keep the Elephant. Be nice. Nope. Lost it. Lost it right at the end. Oh well. Would have been preferable to keep it, but that's a lot of damage that it took, so no worries. Oh, actually, a lie. In reality, we did keep that behemoth, so cool, even better. We're back to the turns lying to us. Although I will say, even pre-patch, we had times when the turns were lying to us already. So I that's always been an issue with Dominions, where the turns do not always show, or the save turns do not always show how things actually happen. But a small scenario here where we get to keep our Carrion Behemoth. Either way, we win. Very cool. We do have a new famous hero in Tall Thigh Boys, Tall Thigh Boys, who is Iron Will. Gotcha. So increased heroic +2 for magic resistance, which is nice. Not a huge thing for us, but nice. We also, interestingly, get to see Man, who is to the north of us. And we get to see the disgusting Knights of Avalon. Ugh. Things are possibly the best cavalry in the game now. Ooh. Okay, interesting bless. A smattering of resistances, right? Just to keep them nice and formidable, right? A little bit of HP, a little bit of strength, which is good so that they can hit harder. Enchanted Blood is an interesting new mechanic in Dominion 6. So, gives you 1 increased magic resistance, heals 1 HP every 2 rounds. So it's a very, very low amount of regeneration. But it will also heal the Profuse Bleeding affliction almost instantaneously. So that's not... Profuse Bleeding, I think, is something most people will worry about more on high-value thugs or super combatants or things like that. So I'm not sure that this is crazy good, but it's a relatively cheap thing to add into your bless, and the amount of HP that you're getting back is super low, but it does add up on units that typically aren't going to take a lot of damage, right? You think about the Knights of Avalon have high protection, high protection for the Middle Age, and typically aren't going to take much damage against things like indies, so this will keep them topped off. If they run into the random Profuse Bleeding, it will keep them from dying there, and it gives them magic resistance into the mid and late game. It's also interesting in that, you know, these are extremely good units for the mid to late game when you have actual buffs that you can put on them, further increasing their protection, right? Like natural protection 0, but sitting at 18, that's crazy. Natural protection 4, sitting at 21, also crazy, right? Like these things can get absurd protection once you can actually put buffs on them. Even just Bark Skin, right? You know, can do a lot of work for them. So putting something in like Enchanted Blood gives you the opportunity to have a very low base regeneration, which is still going to be nice because they're not taking much damage. And if they took some, like a Thunderstrike or something like that, they'd probably die from it anyways, right? But also getting a little bit of magic resistance, so very cool. Aside from that, they have Blood Surge, classic, also scary and disgusting on Cavalry the Strong, and then Heroism 140%, which we are basically doing. This is actually, again, this is going to show post-patch numbers, I believe. So this should actually be 200%, I think, which is what we have, right? This should be 4 ticks of heroism, I believe, or something along those lines. So yeah, this is going to be murder. Pure murder. These Vinemen and Woodsmen are not going to be able to hurt them in any way, shape, form, fashion. Oh, also interestingly, I think this is right. We can see they have a smattering of resistances, including poison resist, but these things have poison resist built in, both to the Knight, who has a base 5 poison resistance, and the Unicorn, who has a base 10 poison resistance. Also, smart mounts, so if the rider dies, the mount can actually return. They have recuperation, just like black centaurs. They have disease resistance. They have forest survival. These things, the unicorns have true sight and a built-in magic attack. These things are disgusting. Honestly, potentially the best cavalry in the game now. Very, very strong. And yeah, they're gonna wreck shop here. Also, a little scary to see them to the north of me. That's a concern. We do have ways of fighting things like this. In theory, right? Like mass centaur, or not mass centaurs. Our black centaurs won't do super well against these guys because they actually do have enough attack skill to hit, especially after they get experience pips, and they do enough damage to kill us very quickly. And we, because of their very high protection, don't do enough damage to kill them very quickly. However, a shit ton of minotaurs, right? Like, minotaurs are only size 4, but they hit for 30 fucking damage, right? So, minotaurs won't be trying to trample these things because they're too big, so instead they'll be swinging at them, meaning that it would take a lot of minotaurs, don't get me wrong. It would take, like, probably 3 to 4 times the number of minotaurs to take them down, probably with buffs. So it's not like easy solution, right? But we do have options to try to like deal with them, but probably we just want them to be a friendly neighbor. We'll see. Anyways, very interesting to see man to the north of us. And yeah, we can see quite a bit more of the world now. We have this big column. And now we just need to figure out what is... We've kind of got the north. We've kind of got the south, east, west. We got to figure out what's over here to the east. So we're going to fly over there and hopefully see. We do see Facia down here expanding with their light infantries. Colossi light infantries, Phaeacian light infantries. So Facia is kind of classically one of those nations who doesn't really do a big bless, generally speaking. Their Orichalcum Guard are okay, right? Out of the gate. They have a built-in, magical weapon. They have decent protection, pretty okay HP for a non-human unit, right? Like, they're pretty good out of the gate. But it's kind of a situation of Facia has so much other good stuff going on that you kind of want to have good scales with them. And people tend to not lean heavily into crazy blesses for expanding and early game wars with the Orichalcum Guard, right? Because their Colossi Light Infantry are actually pretty solid. Not because they're just this unkillable unit or anything like that, but because they're Colossi, right? Like, they're larger than normal humans, which means they have decent HP, and this fucking javelin hits like a goddamn truck. So when you have 40 of these sons of bitches in a line, and you just march them forward, or someone runs at you, and they just get a fucking wall of javelins thrown at them, it tends to halt just about any indies. So you could expand with these guys super, super well. In the mid-game, early/mid-game, you can switch over to more Colossi heavy infantry, which are going to take buffs better and things like that, right? And so, yeah, you don't really care about your base lineup the majority of the time, your human troops, when you've got such good other units. So, not expecting them to have much of a bless, right? We now know Man's Bless, and we now know Ohm's Bless. And now we just need to see who's to our east. We can also see, interestingly, to the east, that there are some cave entrances down here. So once we actually kind of like get a better understanding of what's around us, we might jump into the caves and see who's down there and what's going on. What are we doing from a movement standpoint? So I did entertain the idea of going south. Both of these provinces are pretty easy, probably. There are some cataphracts here, but we should be fine. Wolf tribe in this amount is probably not that big of a deal against this army. But that's starting to get to a point to where, okay, we're extending very far south. Ulm's right here, Man's right here. This is really out of ours. These are really out of our sphere of control, right? Whereas this area, kind of like Titan in here, is very much in our sphere of control. I would really love to take the Forest of the Lost, but Bone Tribe can be very scary with those freaking spadums, right? So we're instead going to jump, thanks to our absurd map move with Forest Survival, we're going to jump across to Helmshire, which looks like it should be a relatively easy province, and hopefully kind of like discover what's going on over here so we can kind of wrap up this situation, right? And maybe ultimately, like take this area and then head in, combining forces towards the end of turn 12 or 13 into a big fight on the throne right next to our capital. Take that, and then maybe we can launch ourselves out against someone nearby, right? Like, that would be the generalized concept. So we're doing that. We're also sending in reinforcements to Trottern, right, in the guise of more Black Centaurs, more Centaur Warriors, and a small smattering of the mannequins we've raised, because next turn we'll probably try to combine from Helmshire and Trottern into Forest of the Lost, because I really want that forest, right? I do not want Phaeacia getting any ideas, even though it is only 2 from Phaeacia and it is 3 from me. It's a forest. I'm Asphodel. I want it, right? So we'll probably be combining into that and seeing how as we go. I would not expect Phaeacia to go into it with this force, right? Could potentially take it, but I don't think that they would do that, right? In the north, we're basically making the exact opposite choice, right? Like, we're going to go over here. We're not going to go down into other people's business, away from our sphere of influence. Basically, in the north, I've gone, oh, well, that's another forest. It's 2 away from Man, and it's 1, 2, 3 away from me. That means it's mine. So, it's also a scenario of Man has not expanded down south into Eagle Reach, right? Which I presume is probably because it's very fucking expensive to get those damn Knights of Avalon. 90 gold a pop, right? So, like, it takes a lot to get them going. They're disgusting, but it takes a lot to actually get them going. So, we might have a little bit of a free pass. Man might get annoyed at us taking something like Eterol, when it's 2 away from their cap and 3 away from mine. But I'm open to the concept of, like, trading provinces and things like that. But at the beginning of the game, when you're expanding, take the provinces that you can, and I would say, I don't know why I'm saying this this is a concept for new players, right? A lot of players will be very hesitant or concerned about annoying their neighbors with their expansion, which is a valid thing to be concerned about, right? But reasonable people are going to be reasonable and willing to negotiate with you and be like, okay, yeah, sure, you expanded into it, but it's only 2 away from me. Do you want peace? Let's do a trade or something like that, right? And unreasonable people are going to be unreasonable regardless. So take the province, and they're either going to be unreasonable regardless of whether you took the province or not, right? Regardless, we're going to take Eterol, partially because I am still a little concerned about how many Wolf Tribe are here. We would probably be able to take it with our Black Centaurs combined on it, but we might lose 1 or 2, and I really don't want to do that right now. And I would prefer to keep the chaff that we kind of have at the moment. So we're going to go for Eterol, and then we'll probably move back around into Bycliff, Lovendalen, Shade Forest, that kind of scenario. With the idea being this from turn 6 to turn 12, try to solidify our area, circle back around in the attempt of hitting Shadowglade in this kind of like big final push. So, what else are we doing? Recruiting another Centaur Hierophant, more Black Centaurs, and more Centaur Warriors. Ignore this guy. Doesn't exist for like another 20 turns. Ignore him. He's not in existence. That boggles my mind how the turn files save so much particular information, but the game's information overrides the turn files, even to the point to where things that didn't exist from the turn files will show up when you look at those turn files. It's a very interesting situation. Anyways, that doesn't exist. We'll worry about that later, if we even get the opportunity to worry about it later. More Black Centaurs, more Centaur Warriors. The expansion continues, and that's pretty much it. We have no research because we are expanding wildly, and that's fine, right? The way that we are trying to... What we are trying to accomplish right now is get approximately 20 provinces, roll some Panic Apostates that are appropriate for casting Grow Fortress. Also ignore the patch stuff. I know if someone, over the next course of the couple turns, if someone comes at me over the patch stuff, remember, this is pre-patch, okay? Even if it doesn't look like it, it's pre-patch, I promise you. So, we're going to have to roll some things and hopefully get lucky. And if we are able to get lucky, we'll get 1 or 2 more forts up. And once that happens, because we are Magic 3, we should research very quickly. We should catch up on research very, very quickly. Our researchers... In general, if you want to research, you probably go the Black Dryad the majority of the time, right? You get kind of less bang for your buck out of the Centaur Hierophants and Hierophantides than you do out of the Black Dryads. And you can go just Dryad Hags, but they're overall more expensive, but they're also incredibly superior when it comes to combat, so it's kind of a toss-up of which do you need at the moment, right? But for just plain research, Black Dryads are going to pop out at 17 research a pop for 215 gold, which isn't bad, right? That's going to catch us up pretty damn quickly. We also are almost over the 1,000 income mark, which is pretty good for us, right? Kind of getting to that point to where we feel like we're making money. To where we've almost spent all of our money, but not quite, right? Like that kind of concept. So looking good. Only 2 expansions in the next turn. And probably only maybe 2 or 3 the turn after that. It just depends on what develops around us. So we'll see how it goes. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.